Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
And so in this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slog.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
Was a massive disappointment in the ratings for them, certainly. We do know, when you go and you look at through these charts, the first couple days it was out, because we have 3 days of Ironheart in these numbers, just like we had 3 days of Daredevil in these numbers. And Daredevil in those first 3 days had over 300 million minutes watched. So, and that was with less possible runtime than something like Ironheart. Yet we know that it hasn't matched that.
I can understand why she's frustrated. That's how I feel watching her interviews.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young Black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should.
One major development going on now involves more to do with Dominique Thorne going off at the fans yet again in the midst of the Ironheart ratings disaster.
It's all ego. You would never find me with an ego like that. Not with my fallopian tubes.
Comes to the numbers. Spoiler alert. Kind of exactly what we expect. Ironheart ratings in the gutter.
Now, Thorne delivered the following in a desperate play to salvage the series. I think Marvel fans, she says, just need to take a step back and to stop focusing on our support for both diversity and LGBTQ and claiming that as some form of a hidden message. Now is that we know that Kevin Feige and Bob Iger, they're also engaging in damage control about this show, saying things like, don't trust the negative reviews, don't trust the trades, stuff like that.
Ironheart is the biggest L of Marvel of all time. The reactions are just spectacular. Supposedly he's smarter than Tony Stark, bites an electric wire, sells her soul to gain magic powers, uses new powers to steal. What did the writers mean by this? Smoke detector beeps.
And they were doing everything in their power to really prop up this show. That's exactly why they had RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., some weeks ago going on talk shows to really say that Riri is the best thing to the MCU to represent the legacy of Tony Stark.
Ironheart was supposed to be Marvel's bold next chapter, the story that would carry the torch after the loss of Iron Man, introducing a fresh young hero to lead the next generation of the MCU. And at the center of it all was Dominique Thorne, a rising actress with the full weight of Disney's hype machine behind her.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. But after I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that.
She wasn't just playing Riri Williams, she was being positioned as the future of Marvel. The marketing push was relentless. Dominique appeared on talk shows, red carpets, and fan events, confidently promising a series that would blow people's minds and bring something Marvel fans had never seen before. She laughed off skeptics, compared Ironheart's launch to the early days of Iron Man, and made it clear she was ready to take the spotlight.
Not only is she incredibly controlling, but she's a about it to everybody who works for her when things inevitably start spiraling. Like, boom! God. She is so full of it. This is not.
But when the first episode dropped, the celebration turned into chaos. Critics tore into the writing, the tone, and yes, Dominique's performance. Social media lit up with memes, and audience scores tanked within days. And just when the backlash seemed like it couldn't get any worse, it did.
Ironheart might be one of the worst executed ideas ever in the MCU, because under all that garbage was actually potential.
Because somewhere in Colorado, 4 cartoon kids were about to turn Dominique Thorne's worst week into her worst nightmare. In a single South Park episode, Ironheart went from underperforming Marvel project to the punchline of a nationwide joke, and Dominique's reaction would make sure no one ever forgot it.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young Black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it...
Before Ironheart even aired, Marvel poured millions into making Dominique Thorne the next household name. She was pushed onto every talk show. Her face filled Marvel's social media accounts, and Disney's official YouTube channel uploaded behind-the-scenes videos about her brilliant transformation into Riri Williams. On paper, it all made sense.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark. It's like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through, and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like, I like that girl. And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
Dominique had just come off Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, where she debuted as Riri. The movie gave her a few memorable moments, the kind of role Marvel hoped would build anticipation for her solo project. And for a short while, it worked. Fans debated theories, speculated on cameos, and discussed how Ironheart could be the Iron Man for Gen Z. But even before the show aired, there was a strange split in the audience.
There is also way too much focus on the LGBTQ community by the fandom in a negative manner, and it just needs to go away, I think, for a healthy story to grow, and for Riri to really share her limelight with...
Hardcore Marvel loyalists insisted that Dominique was the perfect choice, praising her interviews and the modern energy she brought. Others, however, were skeptical, pointing out that Riri Williams in the comics had a rocky reception and wondering if Disney was risking too much on a character the general audience didn't really connect with. Despite the split opinions, Marvel moved full steam ahead. Posters for the show featured Dominique in a bulky red and gold suit, standing defiantly against a fiery backdrop. Promotional clips showed her tinkering in a garage, giving off those young genius inventor vibes. And Dominique herself, she leaned into it. She spoke in interviews about bringing a voice to young black women in science, positioning herself not just as an actress, but as a role model. While that message connected with some viewers, others accused Marvel of using identity politics to sell the show instead of focusing on tight storytelling. Still, the hype train didn't slow down. Every convention appearance brought new teasers, and Dominique seemed to relish the spotlight. She called Riri the most important new hero Marvel has introduced in years, and insisted the series would be pure energy from start to finish. And then came the first reviews. When episode 1 of Ironheart hit Disney+, the reaction was immediate and savage. The writing, called clunky and painfully on the nose. The tone, critics said it couldn't decide whether it wanted to be a serious superhero drama or a quirky teen comedy. And Dominique's performance? Let's just say the internet didn't hold back. Twitter threads popped up within hours, pointing out moments they felt were overacted, awkwardly delivered, or just plain unconvincing. Some viewers said she lacked the charisma needed to carry a Marvel series, while others compared her performance unfavorably to Robert Downey Jr.'s effortless charm as Tony Stark. Rotten Tomatoes reflected the chaos. While critic scores hovered in the meh territory, the audience score plummeted fast. Memes began circulating showing Riri Williams as a knockoff Iron Man and roasting key scenes from the show. On Reddit, entire threads popped up titled things like "Why Ironheart Doesn't Work" and "Dominique Thorne is Miscast." The backlash didn't stop at the show's pacing or writing. It became personal. People began digging up old interviews where Dominique seemed overly confident, using them as proof she'd underestimated the challenge of carrying a Marvel project. Screenshots from these interviews were posted side by side with the show's awkward moments, creating a narrative that she had hyped herself up far more than the show delivered. And while Marvel hoped the noise would fade away after a few days, it only got louder. YouTubers released video essays titled "The Problem with Ironheart" and "Why Dominique Thorne Failed as Riri Williams," racking up millions of views. It was clear Ironheart wasn't just a flop in the eyes of many viewers. It had become a punchline, and Dominique Thorne was at the center of it. Just when Marvel might have been hoping the Ironheart chatter would fade into the background, it got dragged back into the spotlight in the most destroying way possible. Enter South Park. For decades, South Park has thrived on roasting celebrities, movies, and cultural trends. Nobody is too big or too small to become the face of their jokes. From Tom Cruise to Disney princesses, their satirical fire has scorched everyone. So when word got out that South Park was taking aim at Ironheart, Marvel fans braced for impact. The fictional episode, titled Ironed Out, opened with an eerily familiar young inventor character named Ricky Wires, clearly meant to be Riri Williams. She struts into town wearing a homemade armor suit that clanks with every step, bragging about how she's the smartest person in the entire Marvel universe. The town's reaction? Confused stares and awkward silence. From there, the parody only got sharper. Ricky keeps interrupting conversations to tell people how brilliant she is, yet every invention she makes either malfunctions or causes a bigger problem. In one scene, she tries to stop a bank robbery, but her suit's voice assistant malfunctions and blasts K-pop at full volume until the robbers escape. The most savage jab came halfway through the episode, when the townspeople hold a roast for Ricky to celebrate her achievements. Instead of praise, they list every failure she's had, from destroying the local power grid to accidentally setting a playground on fire. One character mutters, "At least Iron Man had personality," drawing a huge laugh from the in-show audience. It wasn't just a parody of the character, it was a parody of Dominique's entire public image during the Ironheart promo cycle. The exaggerated arrogance, the awkward delivery, the over-the-top self-importance, South Park dialed it up to 11. And in typical South Park fashion, they didn't care about fallout. The episode aired, clips hit Twitter within minutes, and suddenly Ironheart was trending again. Not because people were rediscovering the show, but because they were laughing at how accurately South Park had captured its flaws. Fan reactions were savage. Some viewers who had never even watched Ironheart said the parody convinced them they didn't need to. Others started sharing memes of Dominique's real-life interviews side by side with South Park clips, noting how similar they were. Even casual Marvel fans were piling on, with comments like, "When South Park sums up the whole MCU phase in 22 minutes better than Marvel did in 6 episodes." It was the kind of cultural hit a struggling show and its lead actress can't easily recover from. And for Dominique Thorne, it was personal. At first, Dominique stayed quiet. The episode went viral, the memes spread, and she kept posting her usual content: set photos, motivational quotes, and promotional snippets for Ironheart. Some fans thought she was taking the high road. Others guessed she was waiting for the buzz to fade away. But then, the cracks started to show. It began with a live interview on a mid-tier entertainment podcast. The host, clearly trying to stir the pot, asked her directly, "So, have you seen the South Park episode about Ironheart? What do you think?" Dominique's smile tightened. She let out a short laugh and replied, "I don't really watch cartoons that tear down people doing important work." The host tried to move on, but Dominique doubled back, adding, "You know, it's easy to make fun of someone when you're hiding behind a cartoon character. I'd like to see those guys do what I do." The clip hit Twitter within an hour, and that's when it snowballed. Fans accused her of being thin-skinned. Critics said she was punching down at a comedy show that's been making fun of everyone for decades. The podcast host himself even tweeted, "Wasn't expecting that reaction." Then came the tweets. Dominique posted a thread defending Ironheart and dismissing what she called lazy parody humor. She suggested that the backlash against her was driven by people who were never going to accept this character anyway. The thread racked up thousands of replies, many supportive, but just as many roasting her for playing the victim. Within 48 hours, several of her tweets were deleted. Screenshots, of course, lived on. To make matters worse, other celebrities weighed in. A former Marvel actor joked on Instagram, "If South Park roasted me, I'd frame it." Popular YouTubers broke down her interview clip, pausing every few seconds to highlight what they saw as defensiveness. The more Dominique pushed back, the more it fed the cycle. What could have been a one-week meme was now a full-blown narrative. Dominique Thorne couldn't take a joke. And while Marvel remained silent, no official statements, no social media defense, the damage was already done. In the court of public opinion, she had lost. By the end of that week, entertainment blogs were running headlines like "Dominique Thorne meltdown over South Park parody" and "Why Ironheart's lead actress can't escape the backlash." The episode had gone from being a jab at Ironheart to a defining moment in Dominique's career, one that, for many viewers, confirmed all the worst things they'd already been saying. Once Dominique's interview clips and deleted tweets started making the rounds, the story took on a life of its own. What had started as a South Park parody spiraled into a week-long feeding frenzy for online media. YouTubers were quick to cash in. Channels dedicated to pop culture drama rolled out thumbnails screaming things like "Dominique Thorne snaps at South Park" and "Ironheart actress meltdown caught on camera." Each video pulled in hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of views, dissecting every facial expression, every word, and every pause in her responses. Entertainment blogs joined the fun. Outlets like Screen Rant, We Got This Covered, and a dozen mid-tier gossip sites published think pieces about the controversy. They framed it as part of a bigger discussion: why modern Hollywood stars seem unable to laugh at themselves. Some writers accused Dominique of fueling the fire by reacting publicly instead of ignoring it. On Twitter, the conversation got messier. Memes comparing Dominique's reaction to other actors who had been parodied, like Robert Downey Jr., who once laughed off a Family Guy joke about Iron Man, went viral. Fans kept reposting a 15-second South Park clip with captions like, "They warned her, and she still walked into it." Podcasters, late-night hosts, and even TikTok creators jumped in. One TikTok trend involved people reenacting Dominique's interview with exaggerated facial expressions, followed by a cut to the South Park parody. Another trend took her deleted tweets and had AI-generated voices read them in an overdramatic tone for comedic effect. It didn't help that some of her MCU co-stars stayed conspicuously silent. While a few lesser-known actors liked her Instagram posts, the bigger Marvel names didn't publicly defend her. This fueled speculation that Marvel's PR team had told everyone to keep their distance. And here's the thing: in the entertainment world, perception is everything. Once the public narrative shifts, it's almost impossible to steer it back. Dominique's name was now linked to words like overreacting and thin-skinned and can't take criticism. Even people who hadn't watched Ironheart now had an opinion on her, and it wasn't flattering. The South Park episode had planted the seed, but her own responses had watered it, letting it grow into a full-blown PR disaster. The harsh reality? For many viewers, this was no longer about the quality of Ironheart. It was about Dominique Thorne as a public figure, and whether she could survive the fallout. Once the memes faded, the entertainment industry started asking a different question. What does this mean for Dominique Thorne's future? Inside Marvel, the timing couldn't have been worse. The MCU was already struggling to regain momentum after a string of underwhelming projects. The plan was for Ironheart to be part of the next big crossover storyline, but now the show's brand was tainted. Rumors began circulating on Reddit and fan forums that Marvel might scale back Riri Williams' role in upcoming films. Some industry insiders, often anonymous but still widely quoted, claimed that Marvel executives weren't happy with how Dominique handled the situation. One supposed leak suggested that internal meetings had shifted focus to introducing alternative young heroes who might resonate better with fans. Casting agents also took notice. In Hollywood, image is currency, and the perception that an actor is difficult or uncooperative with press can quietly closed doors. A few smaller productions Dominique had been linked to suddenly went silent on updates, and entertainment reporters started asking if she'd been unofficially removed from certain circles. Meanwhile, fans debated whether she could bounce back. Some argued that controversy fades, and that one good performance could erase the memory of the South Park drama. Others believed she had already crossed a point of no return, that the combination of Ironheart's flop and her combative response to satire had done lasting damage. Comparisons were made to other actors whose careers took a hit after public missteps. Brie Larson's awkward press tour moments, Letitia Wright's off-screen controversies. Even though those actors still found work, their public image shifted permanently. For Dominique, still early in her career, the stakes felt even higher. And then there was the Marvel factor. Unlike indie film actors, MCU stars live in a constant media cycle. One slip-up isn't forgotten. It's archived, memed, and brought up every time the studio tries to promote the next project. If Dominique were to appear in a future Marvel film, there's no doubt someone would splice clips of her next to South Park's Ricky Wires within hours. For now, her next move will define her career. If she disappears from the spotlight, people will say she's hiding. If she tries to joke about it, critics will claim she's doing damage control. And if she keeps doubling down, the internet will gladly turn the backlash into another viral moment. It's a no-win situation, unless she finds a way to completely change the narrative. But in Hollywood, as in South Park, that's easier said than done. The Dominique Thorne South Park incident isn't just a celebrity drama. It's a case study in how fast the entertainment landscape can turn against someone. 10 years ago, an actor might have been able to weather this kind of backlash with a single magazine interview or a carefully crafted public statement. But in 2025, the internet doesn't just remember, it amplifies. And Dominique's situation hits at a time when Marvel can't afford another PR mess. Phase 5 was meant to be the grand reset after the post-Endgame slump, but instead it's been plagued by mixed reviews, declining box office numbers, and fan fatigue. Ironheart was one of the supposed solutions, a new, younger hero to energize the franchise. Instead, it became a symbol of exactly what critics say is wrong with the MCU. High budgets, heavy-handed messaging, and characters that fail to connect with general audiences. South Park didn't just roast Dominique Thorne, it roasted Marvel's entire current strategy. And the fact that the parody landed so hard shows just how vulnerable the studio's image is right now. Dominique's missteps only magnified the problem. She could have shrugged it off, made a self-aware joke, maybe even leaned into the meme to show she wasn't rattled. But instead, the defensive interviews, the pointed tweets, and the quick deletions made it clear to audiences that the parody hit a nerve. And once people sense that weakness, they push harder. The fallout has sparked debates about whether Marvel's younger cast members are prepared for the level of scrutiny that comes with MCU fame. Being a Marvel hero isn't just about acting anymore. It's about surviving the 24/7 media cycle, navigating controversy, and knowing when to stay quiet. For Dominique, the question now is simple. Is this a career-defining stumble or the beginning of the end? In Hollywood, your biggest role can launch you into superstardom, or it can be the moment that locks you into a narrative you never wanted. For Dominique Thorne, Ironheart was supposed to be her Iron Man moment. Instead, it's remembered for low ratings, relentless memes, and a South Park parody that refuses to fade away. The internet moves fast, but certain cultural moments stick, and Dominique's reaction has been etched into the MCU's history for all the wrong reasons. Even if she books more roles, even if she delivers better performances, there will always be someone ready to pull up that South Park clip, that interview smirk, that thread of deleted tweets. In the end, maybe it's not South Park that destroyed Dominique Thorne's image. Maybe it was the perfect storm, a struggling Marvel show, an unforgiving internet, and a reaction that told audiences everything they needed to know. And in an industry where perception is everything, sometimes all it takes is 22 minutes of animated TV to change the course of a career.